Brian Von VA, I have a question for all of you DMs out there. What's the dumbest way a player at your table has died? Let us know in the comments below. Teleported to a cheese dimension. I cannot stress enough that this was a silly and relaxed session. The party got whammied with mind-altering cheese and were glamored to see allies as enemies. The monk KO'd the wizard warlock and, true to character, said his PC would not hesitate to use all his actions to attack an enemy threat. So, with a double fail from a downed hit, the wizard botched the last save. And the cherry on top, the player, not the character, insists that all his PCs have a DNR and refuses Revivify on himself. We had a healer, and he refused, despite it being objectively a very dumb and unplanned death, and despite their PC being in the middle of a big plot involvement at that time. This player goes through PCs like Pringle chips. Once you pop, you just can't stop. We had to get to the top of a tower of a dead wizard friend of ours at something like level 3 or 4. However, the tower was guarded by these adorable creatures named bleeps. They were just these rolling green blobs that could only say bleep. I'm basically picturing Kirby. There were a ton, but they were very easy to deal with. If one took any damage, it would explode, damaging everything in a 15-foot radius. I quickly discovered that if I moved like them, not only would they let us pass, but they would accompany us. It wasn't until about halfway up the tower when I figured out the problem. I was in the middle of a densely packed army of about 70 bleeps. Oh no. I didn't see a way out of it other than to just not take any damage. But one of the other people in my group used a magic shield of his to give me an ability called Death Ward. We do get a point where a very stupid, but I continue to argue in character, decision does detonate this bleep mass, with me in the middle. A flying skull was threatening us to let him steal some stuff from the tower, and my character was basically a walking bomb, so I tried to grapple it. As it turns out, the skull was basically a familiar and did not mind giving its bones to the cause. The DM has this really pretty narration about the explosion, and the tower being wrapped in flames, and the shield glowing as my character is living and wrapped in this energy. We're all popping off that I survived, and the DM reads the description of the Death Ward spell. The first time the target would drop to 0 hit points as a result of taking damage, the target instead drops to 1 hit point. We're so excited, we barely hear it when the player with the magic shield quietly says, "That's not what Death Ward does." We all stop. Apparently, the shield has an ability called Death Ward that grants advantage on saving throws. The DM asks for a quick second. He comes back with another really pretty description that ends with the rules for massive damage. Instant death. Massive damage can kill you instantly. Mac, how many hit points do you have? 38. All right, you take 448 points of damage. Ain't no coming back from that, Mac. This one's clearly a story from Ohio. Character used movement abilities to chase a fleeing necromancer into a cornfield in the dark with the only light source, leaving a party of no dark vision in the dark in the middle of an undead-infested village. Character got eaten by a zombie death worm, light source gone. Rest of the party just hears a scream cut off and the lights go out deep in the cornfield. Zombie death worm burrows underground with swallowed character. Investigating a hidden temple deep in the eternal forest. Said player previously had a wonderful idea of trying to ride a skeleton red dragon bareback instead of letting the guard patrol go past in peace. So we were prepared for something silly. The players enter the clearing of the temple. Fairly standard guards of high-level demons clearly up to no good. Also, several incredibly powerful magical beams were radiating from the temple's defenses, and were reflected around to cover a wide area by large platinum mirrors. The beams were described as prismatic, crackling with power, and demons were very clearly avoiding going near them. Cue combat! Party starts mowing down the demons, but see the door of the temple start slowly closing as a demon slips inside. The previous genius player,
I take the run action to get to the door.
me. Player, you know this will take you through checks against 5 of the highly dangerous looking magical beams, right?
Yep, I got this. My saves are high.
He, in fact, did not make it through the 5 prismatic beams. Electricity, death, and then plane shift said goodbye. The remaining players continued their wise avoidance. Witness this as a player. Level 6 party investigating an ancient forgotten temple the DM warned us extensively was full of deadly traps. As in, we would die if we weren't cautious and smart. Half the party decides to take a long rest partway through. My paladin, the barbarian, and the artificer fighter. The warlock, monk, and ranger decide to keep exploring a little, but of course they don't tell the rest of us. They find a statue of a woman that is crying, and a hole in the wall leading to what looks like a deep well. The bottom cannot be seen. Objects tossed in make no noise after a few seconds. Instead of waking the 2 casters that have ways of checking it out without going inside, here's what they decide to do. Tie a rope to the monk and lower him down. The DM pulls the monk into a private chat. We see him roll an intelligence save. The DM returns. The monk does not. The rope goes slack. When they pull it up, the end looks cleanly severed. There is no answer when they yell the monk's name. Clearly, they know what they have to do. The ranger now ties the rope around the warlock and lowers him down to rescue the monk. The warlock is pulled into a private chat. He does not return. The rope again goes slack, severed cleanly. Can anyone guess what the ranger decides to do? If it's
Go get help.
you'd be wrong. No, he ties the rope to the statue and goes down the hole. Private chat, intelligence save, ranger does not return. The rest of us finish our long rest to find half the party missing. We find the rope tied to the statue next to the hole. We yell but get no response. The fighter artificer inspects it to try and figure out what the deal is, and rolls a 26 Arcana check to figure out that at the bottom of the well or hole is an OSR-style sphere of annihilation that the 3 missing people were just literally lowering themselves into. The int saves were to figure out what was happening in time to try and escape. None of them passed it. As the monk said,
We did, bitches.
not a player, but their mount? In running TOA, one of our fighters was insistent on taking his pet triceratops into the dungeon. Cramped corners, tight hallways, and many stairs later, they eventually wound up in a small chamber with a collapsible floor. The kind of collapsible floor that opens into 2 spinning meat grinders. Suffice to say, all of the players pulled out stops to hug the ledges, fly, cling to the ceiling, but no one had the reaction speed or physical ability to stop the 1,000-pound triceratops from getting turned into minced meat. Playing Tomb of Annihilation. Hey, I think we've read one already about this. Like my 6th or so session ever, coming into the party towards the end of the campaign. I was a first-time player and, naturally, went edgy with my character. In my 2nd session, I pissed off the group by killing an NPC.
Because it's what my character would do, bruh.
Deep in the tomb, there is a glowing gem on a pedestal in a room. I go and grab it and immediately turn to stone. The party looks at each other, walks up to my now petrified body, and pushes it over, shattering me into a million pieces. Laughs were had. I learned a lot about playing the game and how not to be a problem character, and rolled up a new goblin cleric that became a beloved member of the party. That was years ago, pre-COVID. Now I DM a homebrew world for the same group of friends, and we are having a blast. We still joke about how awful my monk was to this day. A 5th level party came to a cliff face with a cave about 60 feet up. They were aware that giant scorpions lived in the cave. The cliff was climbable with checks, but the party scientist, 2nd edition D&D broken and flawed class, had a short-range teleport and decided to show it off by teleporting to the cave alone. He might have made it, but then he decided to lean over the edge of the cliff and holler down to his friends to gloat about not having to make the climb. His hollering alerted the scorpions. At this time, it might be worthwhile to note that he had used all his psionic points on the teleport, and so was essentially a rogue with attacks damage armor, but without any of the clever rogue abilities. He got stung by one of the scorpions in the first round, and so announced he was going to tie his rope to something and rappel down to the party below, where he hoped the cleric could cure his poison. Then he looked at his character sheet, and he didn't have any rope. So he opted to just take a header off the edge of the cliff. 66 fall damage killed him soundly. They had a scroll of raise dead, but opted not to use it because he would have just died again from the poison, which they had no means to cure. They dragged him back to town for a healer and came back another day. Same character, next session, was confronted with a lake of lava with a small island at the center where there was a sword sitting on a pedestal. He again used his teleport to get to the island. Again, he lacked the points to teleport back. They debated what to do for a while. Everyone thought the pedestal was probably trapped, but he figured he'd take a chance and grab the sword. The island started sinking. He threw the sword at the paladin, missed, and it went into the lava, as did he a few rounds later, still having not thought of a way out of his situation. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that is called a Darwin Award. My player was the only one, in a stealth moment in a jungle, who decided to run straight to a baby spinosaurus. When he saw the parents, he decided to fight. The party only recovered a finger. He died before any party member could arrive to help. My son, wasn't me DMing, who was slightly inexperienced, decided to go down a dark alleyway to check on a cat-like critter. This was in Ravenloft. Never got confirmation that it was a Grimshika, but he was a trickster rogue and it was looking like it was going to kill him. That's not the funny part. The funny part was one of our very experienced players taking pity on him, deciding completely against alignment to go help him. They both died. The player who died was the DM's girlfriend at the time, now wife. There's no relationships in TTRPGs, So I was doing a session with my friends. It was a heist, and my guys were making a distraction by leading all the guards to the other side of this bridge so they could sneak into a masked ball. My guy has wings that he can use to glide and, kind of fly, so he jumps off this bridge to escape the guards, but he wants to do it the cool way and deploy his wings just before he hits the ground. So I tell him to roll for it, and he rolls a 1. He doesn't open his wings in time and hits the ground, instantly killing the player. We all just kind of paused while I just facepalmed. Here, let me do it with you real quick. It was okay, since he's always making new characters, but this one really took the cake, and we laughed over it. Oh boy. So the players were in a long-abandoned dwarven city. In their exploration, they discovered a well that went down to a lower level. They decided to take the halfling rogue, tie a rope to him, actually 2 ropes just for safety, and dangle him from the rickety wooden structure that existed above the well. I'm sure it has a proper name, but the bit with the rope, bucket, and winch, that kind of thing. So down he goes. I roll some dice and the beam breaks. This causes stuff to fall into the cavern below and make a loud enough noise to awaken a purple worm. The worm bursts out of the side of a wall in the cave and basically ends the rogue's life. A couple of the others tried to help but failed to really do much. So it basically just wailed on the rogue until his death saves ran out. Now that encounter was planned differently. I had 2 absent players that week. That fight was meant to be 6 players fighting it on even ground, not a rogue dangling helplessly on a rope, while 2 of the others didn't really engage in the fight properly. And the other basically sat it out entirely, save for the odd fireball thrown down the well from time to time. Players were trying to get a member released from the town jail. Party Thief decides to use his cloak of invisibility and sneak in. He ignores the jail cells, but goes into the office of the head jailer and tries to open a chest.
didn't check for traps, and is now paralyzed.
Meanwhile, the party doesn't know where he is, and the extraction becomes a full-out fight. The building is engulfed in flames, taking the invisible paralyzed thief with it. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and let us know in the comments below. DMs or other players, what's the dumbest way a player at your table has died? And of course, if you want to support the channel and keep us from dying dumbly, make sure to join our membership program. You get early access to videos and our eternal gratitude. We do love you all. Please be safe, be happy, and we'll see you next time. Toodaloo for now.